Knowing what modifications to pick on the driller's flamethrower can be tough. You're worried about making the wrong choices, especially when you're new to Deep Rock Galactic. There's two builds that I want to go over that will give a really good foundation for you to use while you're learning the driller class, and you can tweak them to better suit your playstyle later once you're ready for more difficult content. In this video, I want to go over the pros and cons of these two really solid but different builds for the driller's flamethrower. Hi guys, I'm Legionless and this channel is about helping you enjoy your games more. In this video, I want to look at the driller's flamethrower, the starting primary weapon in Deep Rock Galactic, and go over the pros and cons of two directions you can build the weapon in. This video should serve as a couple foundational builds for the flamethrower that will be great for players new to driller, especially those that don't have any overclocks yet. Once you get more experience with the class and start collecting some overclocks, you should easily be able to tweak the two builds to better suit your playstyle, like being better at dealing damage or crowd control. If you haven't yet, check out why I think learning driller first leads to more success in Deep Rock Galactic. The video serves as a beginner's guide to the class, which will cover a lot of information you'll want to know when playing the driller. Before going over the builds for the weapon, let's all get on the same page about how the flamethrower works. There's two areas of importance for the gun: sticky flames and direct damage. Direct damage is what you typically expect from a flamethrower. You torch a bug, and all of the fire touching the bug is direct damage. Sticky flames are flames that attach to the ground and deal separate damage from the direct damage of the flames. So for sticky flame builds, you should be aiming the flames at the legs of enemies, because the direct damage from the flames will hurt the enemies, but also flames will stick to the ground underneath the bugs and deal additional damage on top of that direct damage. When you're using sticky flames, you'll see a fairly noticeable difference in damage and crowd control when you aim at the lower portion of enemies versus not getting the benefits from sticky flames. This is something I see not a lot of people realize. It's not anything profound, but it's easily something you forget about unless you consciously think about it until it becomes your default. There's another stat that's universal to any build you run called heat. Heat is a stat that affects how quickly something reaches max temperature. At that max temperature, the on fire status effect gets applied. While on fire, 5 damage is applied per interval over its duration. Each interval will randomly be between 0.25 and 0.5 seconds, so on average it's about 13 damage per second. There's some unimportant math that affects the duration of the on-fire status effect, such as the burn temperature, douse fire temperature, and cooling rate, but all of that falls outside of the scope of this video. I've linked a link below in the description to the wiki if you want to know more about how that specifically works. For the sticky flames build, you can choose what you prefer most in tier 1 between high capacity tanks for an additional 25 in tank storage, or high pressure ejector, which adds an additional 5 meters in flame reach. Personally, I prefer the increased tank size so that I deal more damage and total damage while not needing to reload as often for crowd control. In tier 2, I was originally torn between where to go. Sticky flame duration sounded good at first, but that's an option in tier 4, and running both is honestly just overkill. Running both of them together, sticky flames will last 8 seconds, which just isn't as nice of a benefit as other options in tier 2 or tier 4. Ultimately, I think unfiltered fuel for the increase in damage is the best, because it increases the damage per second from 60 to 90, which is a pretty nice gain. In tier 3, sticky flame slowdown was an easy pick for a sticky flame build. Enemies that step into the flames get a 50% slow when it was originally only 10%. This is really nice against dreadnoughts, which move around pretty quickly. Combined with the slows on the gunner and the scout, dreadnoughts can be practically immobilized. In tier 4, we go with the sticky flame duration since we didn't in tier 2. If we go the opposite and go sticky flame duration in tier 2, we just give up too much damage for an increase in ammo capacity. With duration in tier 2, more fuel in tier 4 would lower our damage per second from 90 to 60, and total damage from 5,250 to 4,250. 30 damage per second, and 1000 total damage would be lost in exchange for an extra 75 in fuel, which we don't really need to worry about with this build. Lastly, in tier 5, I prefer heat radiance in almost all flamethrower builds, but especially in sticky flame builds. Targets explode only works when enemies are killed by the direct stream of flame. It doesn't work when enemies are killed by sticky flames on the ground. It doesn't work when enemies die from the on-fire damage over time. And for every enemy directly killed by the direct stream, it's only a 50% chance that the enemy will explode. If the enemy does explode, it deals 55 damage to anything within 3 meters. Basically, it's really difficult to get it to activate at all, since very few flamethrower kills are from direct flame damage, and then it's even less likely because it's only a 50% chance, and when it does happen, it's just too small of an explosion to be worth it in my opinion. So, heat radiance is what I recommend since it pairs with both sticky flames as well as direct flames to make enemies catch on fire even quicker. The sticky flames build is really fun covering everything around you in flames and is really nice at crowd control. It's not bad at single target damage, but the slow it applies to enemies in sticky flames is really nice to have in dreadnought fights. I like to pair this build with the neurotoxin grenade so I can group enemies inside it and quickly light it on fire to incinerate everything within. Moving on to the direct damage build, this build is just as fun and strong as the sticky flames build, but where the sticky flames build is flashy and showy with flames everywhere, the direct damage build is like a quiet, scorching flame that incinerates everything quickly and cleanly with surgical precision. This build is about getting as much damage per second. In tier 1, we go with high capacity tanks so we can get more ammo in our tank. The extra ammo will give the build a nice increase in magazine and total damage. For enemies outside of the base flame range of 10 meters, the driller's secondary weapons can make up for the shorter range, so the build doesn't need high pressure ejector to extend the range. In tier 2, unfiltered fuel gives the flamethrower a really nice DPS increase from 60 base to 90. Sticky flames and extra heat won't do much for our damage per second. In tier 3, sticky flame slowdown is easily out since we're not going for sticky flames in this build. More fuel will increase the amount of total damage, but oversized valves will increase the damage per second from 90 to 117, which will just kill most enemies almost instantly. For tier 4, the obvious pick is more fuel, since it increases the max fuel the flamethrower has by 75. Sticky flame duration won't help this build, and It Burns isn't as useful as the extra ammo. It Burns is a mod that has a 13% chance to inflict fear on an enemy for every 1 second of direct flames inflicted. The 13% chance to activate is just too small of a chance when all it does is make an enemy lose all aggro to you and run away for a few seconds. Most enemies will be killed before the mod has the chance to roll that 13% a second time. Finally, in tier 5, heat radiance again for the same reasons as before. This raw, direct damage build is a really fun build that's familiar to what traditional flamethrowers feel like. You shoot a stream of flames through whatever you want to torch, and it just gets incinerated really quickly. This build is good at crowd control when you group enemies up a little bit so that the flame stream travels between as many as possible. This build is also nice for dreadnought fights because you can do some nice damage even when you don't have a line of sight on the weak point. You can shoot the flame from the front of the dreadnought when you have aggro while your team is shooting from behind on its weak point and still do decent damage, even with dreadnought's resistance to flame damage. The Sticky Flames build and the Direct Damage build are both really strong and fun builds to get you started, especially when you start collecting overclocks that will let you tweak these builds to better suit your playstyle or what things you find more important on the flamethrower. In my infographics Discord channel, I've got some easy to look at images you can reference to quickly make these flamethrower builds yourself or any other weapon builds in Deep Rock Galactic. Feel free to share these infographics wherever you'd like. I just ask you to link back to me for credit when you do. If you want to enjoy your games more, subscribe to the channel and share this video with others to help me out. Comment below if you have any questions about the flamethrower, and thanks for watching.